Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. This is Sanjjeev Singh. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. I am personally extremely excited about this topic. And for next hour or so, we're really going to deep dive into what are the generative AI capabilities we have available with SAP CX solution. We'll talk about the standard use cases available, some of the use cases, what Surajit will be sharing with us. So let me just kind of quickly go through the agenda, what we want to cover for next hour or so. So we'll just do a quick intro for myself and Surjit. He also goes by SG. And then we'll talk about the art of possible with generative AI. As like everything else in life, I strongly believe that we are only limited by our imagination. And that's some of the cases we'll talk about when we are looking at the art of possible with generative AI in CRM and CX. And then SG will walk you through some of the use cases which are currently available in SAP CX AI Toolkit. And then I will just want to give you some of the highlights, like how can you start your journey in your AI? Because right now, everybody's kind of struggling that, hey, where do we start with our AI journey? So we'll talk about that and then some of the next steps. And then we'll open up for Q&A. However, as a housekeeping, I will tell you, please feel free to share your Q&A in the chat. If you have now or even during the presentation, please share your Q&A questions. And towards the end of the presentation for the last 15 minutes or so, we'll take your questions and try to go through those answers. So first and foremost, do a quick introduction. So I just say, my name is Sanjjeev Singh. I'm the founder and CEO of ASAR Digital. You might wonder what is ASAR Digital? And this is something which I have just recently realized. I just got inspired by a few tagline from some of our customers. So what ASAR Digital, what we do, we deliver SAP solutions that deliver business results that matter. That's kind of a sums it up what we do for our customers. I'm also a SAP Press author, been in SAP space for more than 25 years. I come from the implementation background. I have done many ERP implementation myself, many CRM implementations, and very happy to be part of this conversation here. And with me today, I have one of my best friends from SAP, Sourajit Ghosh. He is like, you can, when it comes to CRM and CX, I don't think there are many people in ecosystem who has the knowledge, experience, and the background about CX, where it has come from. Him and I both started our journey in the CRM pretty much at the same time, I would say. Definitely he has maintained his youthful looks, unlike me. So SG and I, we started in the same CRM on-prem. When I'm talking of CRM on-prem, good old CRM, we had a e-commerce, sales, service, marketing, everything in one software. However, where we look at now, we have like everything, sales cloud, service cloud, commerce cloud, all these different solutions. And then from the on-prem, we transitioned to the cloud, and now we are talking about the whole generative AI capabilities. Okay, so we have kind of really transitioned through this period. And little tell you more about SG. He's a chief CX solutions expert at SAP. Okay, he's AI strategist, data scientist, and in fact, he is SAP AI black belt. That's some SAP is only bestow that title on few distinguished individuals, and I'm happy to share that SG is one of those. SG also is a CRM and CX advisor and thought leader within SAP. He helps customers transition from their CRM on-prem to the CRM cloud, now generative AI. So literally, he is the guy anybody would love to have time with him to understand that what they can do in their CRM transformation journey. So with that, I would like to pass it on to SG. SG, if you don't mind, just kind of give a little bit more intro about yourself. That would be very beneficial to our audience here.
No, thank you so much, Sanjeev, and thank you for this opportunity, and hi to everyone. It's my joy and my pleasure to interact with all of you. I think this is such a domain that I think it is very important for all of us to remain humble also, because the power of technology is really overwhelming a lot of times. We are all kind of learning. Like I literally had to go back to academics a couple of years ago and I did my MBA 20 years ago, and then I think I had to do my postgrad in AI again, because there is just so much happening. Like I spend my time reading a lot of white papers. I publish a lot of white papers. If you go to LinkedIn, you will see a lot of them. And I think this is probably, and I think Sanjeev will agree with me, in the last 2 decades, we haven't seen so much of transformation and excitement. So we are truly at an inflection point. I think if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's good news. That means you are starting to learn, you're starting to get outside your comfort zone. As an organization, I think we all have to relook at how do we design our strategy, our transformation, and all good things actually. Unnecessarily, I think a lot of fear, a lot of time happens with this is not a hype. This is absolutely real. There is a lot of action which can be done. It's all about rolling up your sleeves and getting the work done. So exciting time for in the world of technology, exciting time in the world of CRM and CX.
Thank you, SG. And so one thing both SG and myself, we share a lot of like contents through our LinkedIn. So if you want to follow us, there's a QR code here. Please scan and get connected with us because we really love and believe in sharing our knowledge and learning from each other when it comes to CRM, when it comes to CX, when it comes to overall SAP solution and strategy. So in our first conversation, what I want to do is I want to just go a little bit into this more like I have some questions which I would like to ask SG and give his perspective about those topics, how customers are dealing with those, what are some of the use cases, and then at the end of the day, like what you can do with that knowledge, right? So I'll have this, my very first question, and I put those questions here on the slide so that it's easier for everybody to follow. So going back to you, SG, like, you and I have been in CRM for a long time, right? AI is nothing new in the CRM. If you remember, like a few years back, it's all the basic uh, place where whole AI started was around machine learning, like how you let machine learn certain pattern as you are interacting with the system and then give you some kind of recommendations. Like, some of the use cases you have seen, like, the nurturing the lead or lead scoring, okay? Even classifying the tickets based on the contents of the ticket or what customers are complaining about, right? And then let AI piece, which is machine learning piece of CRM, help you classify those transactions, right? But then now we are talking of the whole generative AI, right? So from your perspective, how do you think this generative AI is so fundamentally different than the machine learning aspect of AI, what we have been talking already for last few years?
And a great question. I think I would say couple of things, right? If you look at the origin of CRM, the origin of CRM was how can we help managers, right? It was not so much for the sales rep, probably for the call center agents, but it was more how can we do reporting, how can we ensure the pipeline is there, and so on. And over a period of time, yes, we had cloud solutions, it had efficiency and productivity in that modules. But what generative AI has done is it's helped break down all the silos and start making action there. So, and the good part is, we've all been using kind of voice assistants in our journeys as a consumer, from an Alexa to a Google phone and so on. And the advantage which I see now is you would have, on one hand, you'll have the classical machine learning. So you would still need lead scoring, opportunity scoring, account scoring, and all kinds of deep learning, more predictive inventory or forecast accuracy, and so on. So you would still need the classical machine learning. You would still need the automation and the AI agents. So all of that still remains. So you still need robotic process automation. You would still need the various aspects of workflow, like Sales Cloud. In SAP, we have something called an auto flow, where you are able to do that very advanced kind of workflows and streamline the processes. Having said that, you would thus need generative AI to make it easy for people to start consuming that in some form of interaction. So, how can I actually ask a question and understand an account 360 insights, or How can I use images and text as a merchandiser and use that to improve the products? So you will start looking at all these three coming together. And that is the catch here, right? The catch is you would thus need a combination of different kinds of technology stack and skills on the right hand side of the slide. But then there is only so much you can do. So thus, very quickly, as you're thinking of AI use cases, and I know our customers are doing that, start quickly figuring out, are those available in the market? Is it standard, pre-packaged, being prepared by a vendor and made offered to you? Or is this something so unique to your business model or your go-to market or your strategy or your data model where you will have to build the AI uses from scratch? And this differentiation is very important early on in this design. So I know customers who have like 500, 700 odd AI use cases. Very importantly, starting to classify and say, okay, more than the technology stack, figure out, is this being done by someone or do you need to really build it from scratch? And both will be required depending on the use case. So it's a combination of this puzzle of trying to figure out what you want to do. Can it be done standard? Does it need to be built from scratch? And do you need Gen AI? Do you need AI agents? Do you need automation? Do you need machine learning? Sometimes you will need all three to complete a particular use case and get it together. Last but not the least, I think it is also important to understand the concept of data. Just this could be a standalone, topic of discussion. So, how do you actually go about designing your data strategy? And how do you actually make your data intelligent and actionable? Also, certain myths, right? Like a lot of people say you need a lot of data to do AI. It all depends on the use case. If your use and depends on the kind of algorithms for those use cases. So essentially, you would have to start looking at the customer data as a platform and figure out how do you want to expose that data and what kind of data you need for all the various use cases you're looking at. So it is important thus. How do you make this actionable? It is important thus to do these simple three things. One, if you're from the technology team, start talking to your business. If it's a business team, start talking to the technology. In other words, come into the same room and start having those discussions on what does the business need? What use cases do you need? Where is the data coming from? Are there vendors who are doing that? That's like the first basic thing. The second stuff is start getting yourself educated. I think it is very, very important that, like, if we move to the next slide, there is a white paper which of the questions and which we will discuss later today. We will realize that there is so much of availability of content there. It is important to get educated. I'm glad you're attending a webinar like this. This is a great step forward, but I think it's important to be educated more and more on this topic, and then you can start creating the next steps from here.
No, that's a great perspective, Ajit. But as I'm listening to you, something just occurred to me. If you remember, like the CRM is the one area where the user adoption has been one of the most challenging tasks. Every business, they invest hundreds and thousands of dollars, if not millions, in their CRM initiative. And then they always have a struggle. Like, how do I get my users to use the CRM system? If you remember what I'm talking about, SG, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now this whole aspect of generative AI, making this conversational consumption of application, like as you are using the system, you're interacting in a more plain conversational English language. I think this will have a huge impact on the user adoption of CRM as we go forward and as we are building these specific generative AI powered use cases in the CRM. What are your thoughts on that?
So true. In fact, I keep saying the best user experience is no user experience, which
Exactly.
means you don't even know when you're interacting with technology. A very good
Correct.
example is let's take the example of the world of analytics, right? So historically, if you look at, initially we had zero analytics 20, 25 years ago. It was just tables and rows. Then came the boom of analytics, and then came the boom of data lakes and data warehouse, and then it became data swamps. And Uh, and then came the world of big data, and then you started getting insights from there, and now you have too many dashboards,
Yes.
right? So you will log in as a and you would know as a CEO, right? You log in and you see too many dashboards and too many KPIs and too many insights. So what the heck do you do with that?
Yeah.
And that's where, for example, SAP, as an example, in SAP Analytics Cloud, we have Gen AI involved now, where you can ask data, you can ask questions, and just ask the charts and say, hey, what is the sales pipeline for this region, and what can I do? And you will start having that interaction. So and then eventually think of a world where expose that through APIs, where you are just doing a voice interaction with your data. So you don't need all of the 100 dashboards then anymore. So definitely the same thing for quote as a process, or lead
Yeah.
up as a process, and so on.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Ajay. So moving on, just like focus on the next question. So you mentioned briefly about the whole customer data. Um, so you see, like, how do you see this generative AI can help businesses gather and analyze the customer insights, okay, and then just give that kind of more like a very personalized experience to their customers, irrespective of where the customer are coming from. Are they coming on their commerce cloud in their journey, or they are calling the customer service rep or sales rep? How do you see Gen AI can help in those processes in giving that personalized experience to their customers?
So I think the first thing would be to acknowledge the fact that we definitely need hyper personalized customer experience. Now, what I had seen, ironically, is if you look at this 2 decades ago, B2B selling was hyper personalized
Mm.
because there was no technology involved. So it's a sales guy meeting one customer, and there was no software, right? So the entire proposal and everything was customized for that particular customer, the sales interactions and
Yeah.
everything. And retail, on the other hand, was completely non-personalized. You would get
Correct.
coupons in your mailbox. It doesn't matter who stays there,
Yeah.
start using those vouchers.
True.
Now, what happened was, with technology coming in the world of CX, B2C experiences started becoming way more hyper personalized. So telecom, or you log into a Netflix and you get recommended shows, or you a retail experience. And B2B stopped getting hyper personalized. So you had one similar code as a process, or you have the same opportunity management as a process. Doesn't matter what the customer is. You're selling it to a infrastructure sector or a banking sector. Opportunity seems to be the same. It doesn't make sense, but that's what happened. And now what is happening is, because of AI, again in the form of machine learning, generative AI, as well as AI agents and so on. If you can move to the next slide, what I did was I presented an entire case study for a white paper. And again, uh, feel free to read this on LinkedIn, everyone. But if you look at this visually, uh, it's important to look at hyper personalization will happen first depending on what you want to do. So on the right hand side, you will see some examples like predictive inventory issues with AI powered maintenance, or if you want to do everything as a service, so you want to do bundled quotes of solutions, services, and products, and so on. So in this white paper, what I did was I looked at different case studies, and the key part of all of that is figuring out where is the data coming from, because you might feel that you are doing a personalized experience to the customer, but you are doing that personalization in the world of technology based on the data in that application. So let's say you have a CRM application. You might feel that, hey, I'm doing that opportunity scoring based on that particular opportunity data. But have you figured out data coming in from other sources like ERP or invoicing or finance, and using that to actually do the predictive scoring? So, a large part of what you want to do is not just about the algorithm. It is about where is the data coming from. And that's why I'm calling out the key data systems for the CXA models. And thus, for that, you would obviously need the key AI tech stacks, right? Where data and analytics, or ML ops, or data science, and so on. So, hyper personalization is no longer just a buzzword in the world of AI very much. It's possible, it can be done. But for each of the use case, the methodology or the technology stack or the process will be very different depending on what you're trying to do.
Perfect. Thank you, Achi. So now next one is let's talk about like where do you see? Honestly, I am lost. That what the future is going to look like. I don't even know. I can even look as down as like even in 5 years. So what do you see as some of the future trends in AI and specific to CRM and CX innovations, Achi?
So I wish I knew, but as I said, the good news is that, and I think it's very important that I began the talk by saying that we remain humble. I think it is very important to keep reading, right? So here is an example. 1 year ago, I had no clue about this technology, AI agents. Being very honest, it was there, by the way. I was not aware of it. I had not studied it enough. Then I spent many months reading all the academia journals and white papers and what's been happening in the world of research. Uh, d- Heard the lectures of Andrew Ng and so on. And then I published this white paper of mine after studying tons of other white papers and so on. And this is one example of what can be the future, immediate future. Like I'm not talking about 1 year down the line, I'm talking about tomorrow, right? You can start using AI agents, and I in this white paper I published a lot of case studies and point of view of how you can go about doing it, including lines of code. But essentially, think about it like AI agents can be an immediate next future, right? Where you can start using AI agents for various use cases and stitch them together and combine workflows with Gen AI, with machine learning aspects, and create a scenario for yourself. We, for example, in SAP are heavily investing in AI agents, not just in the CX space, but even let's say in our HR and success factor space, even with our Joule AI Copilot, right? There is behind the scenes, we are investing in AI agents. So this could be one big topic, right, for
Mhm.
the future, or I mean immediate future. The next thing which comes to my mind is the whole aspect of working on your data strategy, which I spoke about earlier, right? Because there is, for example, customer data platform, which is beyond just going beyond a data warehouse kind of an environment where you take, like, one aspect is, hey, I have a good AI model and now I can do personalization. So what, right? You have to take action. It can't be an academic discussion. So if, let's say, I'll give you a scenario. Let's say a customer with a high lead score visits your B2B portal and is trying to do a renewal of a quote there. For that customer, there is an expiring warranty and their outstanding invoices is very high. So the moment I describe this, I'm talking about four different data systems.
Yep.
I'm talking about your CRM sales, I'm talking about your commerce platform, I'm talking about your CRM service, and I'm talking about your ERP. And I'm talking about an event where, based on the transactional data and the analytical data which is there in the various systems, for that event, what do you want that person to do in that experience? So that, I think, is the next future also, where we are seeing a lot of our customers work with a customer data platform for B2C or B2B and work with it. Third, uh, I'm also studying a lot of AI laws right now across the
Mhm.
world, and I see a a world, especially by 2025, where many of these topics will start converging together. So on one hand, we already had laws like GDPR or
Yep.
CCPA when it comes to privacy and regulations. Now EU is coming up with the EU AI Act. So I see the world of AI with governance, with the world of customer privacy, and
Mhm.
how do you actually then use technology. So, for example, a lot of investments happening in the world of technology when it comes to transparency and
Mhm.
algorithms to make it transparent. So, I see these as a big topic, which is AI, governance, privacy, and
Mhm.
using technology to transform that.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. So moving on, the next one is, you know, I think you already touched upon that whole data privacy and security.
Mhm.
So what consideration do you think businesses can keep in mind while they're trying to implement some of these generative AI use cases in their CRM?
It's easier to explain with a case study. This is if you can look at, for example, we've
Sure.
launched a completely fabulous, very exciting new solution in SAP called SAP CX AI Tool-kit, and we'll spend probably some time. If I get some time, I'll show you what the system looks like today. Uh, Now, when we build a solution, on one hand, there was functionality, right? Like what can be done with a generative AI platform in context to CX, so use cases and so on. But it's very important to understand that given the fact that generative AI comes with its inherent potential risks, right? Risks of biases, risks of PII data getting mixed up into the LLM models, hallucination as a concept where you might land up giving a wrong answer, and hence you had to approach it from a retrieval augmented generation. Then all the various privacy laws and data protection laws, and how do you actually take care of that? So a large part of the investment, even even before we even get to all that, to have an like SAP has, and if you go to SAP's website, you will see our SAP ethics framework and our guidelines, right? Even to have an ethics board, not just from your own company, but even get experts from outside into the board, such that you have a governance program. You have every time someone comes up with a use case to see whether that use case can even go live based on all the ethics guidelines and rules. Like maybe you don't want to have a use case because it might land up either going against one of the OECD principles or one of the principles of UNESCO when it comes to fairness. So so it will be a combination of three things. One, at the leadership level of an organization, you would need to have that kind of an ethics committee and an ethics governance and your own guidebook. Secondly, you would need to be aware of all the overall AI laws as well as AI governance. Third, you would need a tech stack which will make all of that real. And that is where it comes back to the earlier aspect of our discussion, which is even if you can start making custom AI use cases, I would always recommend that if it is their standard available, try to
Mm.
see if you can leverage that, because there will be a lot which will go behind the scenes when it comes to, let's say, for example, the way we do secure data retrieval in CXAI Toolkit, or how do we actually do the audit logs, or all the various techniques which we use behind the scenes to do obfuscation of the PII data and to ensure that the prompts are clean, and even also to protect the malware injection which can come in once the response comes back from the LLM. So a lot of investments is happening behind. It's like an iceberg, right?
Yeah.
What you're seeing will be a UI, but a lot will happen behind the scene. So
Okay.
so keep this framework in mind. This will be very helpful.
Perfect. Perfect. So I think this is the time, SG, if you don't mind, just with our audience, you kind of show some of those use cases which are currently already available in CX AI Toolkit. To your point earlier, that everybody wants to start the AI journey, but they don't know where to start, right? So I think if you can show us some of the use cases which are available currently in this new tool from SAP called CX AI Toolkit, I think that will be very useful for our audience here.
Awesome. All right. So this is again a very exciting aspect of where we are today when it comes to a new solution which we've launched. Feel free to reach out to the ASAR Digital team and Sanjeev and team for a deeper dive on this, because they're also trained to implement the solution. So on one hand, what we've done at a very simplified level is we've looked at persona driven. So imagine you are a salesperson, or you are a customer service agent, or you are a merchandiser or an end customer when it comes to Commerce Cloud. What would you need to do in the system which will make your life easy? It's as simple as that. How can we make life easy powerful, meaningful for meaning experiences and those wonderful experiences while they are in that process, right? So, as an example, like I would like to straight get into a live system, just makes it a lot easy. So, let's say we are all into emails, right? It doesn't matter how automated you are in. And let's say you are a sales rep and you are Mike Summers and you get an email from this customer Joe Wills, right? What is Joe Wills saying? Can you just standard query about a product? Can you one of the Power Tools machine products? We are trying to uh, in- evaluate that in an opportunity. Can you send the service level agreements and pricing guidelines? Now, this purple icon, right, is basically our what we are branding as Joule, which is basically an extension of the CX AI toolkit. And what you're trying to do here is a lot of interesting use cases of that particular customer. So what happened, by the way, when I clicked is that slide which I showed earlier. It picked out that customer data. It's picking up what are the last orders and the total orders and the total spend. This data is coming, let's say, from a customer data platform. It's using Gen AI to summarize who that particular customer is. So this is really powerful, right? This is what we meant earlier when Sanjeev and I we were explaining about user experience. It's also picking up the segments which this customer is, but it doesn't stop there. Here is the catch. It picks up what was those three things which the customer was asking in that email, and based on that, it's figuring out what needs to be done. And this is exactly what I was saying. Now we finally have a friend who's helping the sales rep or the service agent, right? Where we are saying, okay, for this particular question, like, can you elaborate more on the power tools machine? Then what are the service level agreements and pricing guidelines? Now imagine this data could be anywhere. This data could be there in your sales cloud. Data could be there in your uh, Teams call transcripts. This data could be there in some external knowledge base, but now it's actually picking up all the details like what is the pricing and what are the service level agreements and how do you actually go about doing that pricing of that particular data, and then and so on. Similarly, let's say the next question was you could do a transaction, right? So check the case. So now it is picking up, in this case, it's picking up the data from SAP Service Cloud, wherein it picked up the master data. So who is the customer? What is the status of the ticket? What is the priority? What is the summary of that particular case? And what are the other details? What you're seeing is really, really powerful
Yeah.
because to get this information, this person, poor Mike, would have to probably spend the next 15, 20 minutes at a minimum to figure out even where the information
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
and then start trying to get that information and so on, right? And this was one example. The other example is what do you do when you, let's say, for example, in this case, the customer is asking for a follow-up meeting, right? How do you actually take action from here itself? You can actually go ahead and schedule, right? You can propose a particular time based on your availability, save that, create that request, send that to that particular customer, generate an AI response if required. And just if you see everything is happening so quickly and you share that, the customer will get that particular link. He will click on that link and he will start getting that response, right? And then they can book the meeting. So this is one example, right? Similarly, you could be there in any system, and I'm saying this friend will be there along. So right now, this we were in an Outlook. Let's say you're in your browser, you can actually get your Joule extension and you can start doing your stuff from there also, right? Thirdly, you can always log into the parent system here. This is the platform which I was talking about, CX AI Toolkit, and start going about doing your processes. Now, what can you do there? Now, on one hand, we have created these very powerful AI tools. So, to give you an example, let's say you are a sales rep, you want to create an account summary. Now, historically, let's say a sales manager or a sales rep, they want to actually go about trying to meet a particular customer. Now, what happened here, so very quickly in couple of seconds, is I am trying to figure out for that opportunity for a particular case, for that particular customer, what is the account summary? Imagine this was not there, right? I always say this is the way to think about use cases. If
Mm-hmm.
this was not there, you would have to go to the CRM solution, go to the individual tabs, figure out what you want to, and then try to get a collation. But you can actually now take this, copy this, right, and send it as an email. And by the way, I'm showing this as a standalone solution, but let's say you are in SAP Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, this would be an embedded experience also there, right? So this is one example, right? Similarly, let's say you are a field service person and you want to actually look at a particular case. So let's say you have a case here. And again, if you realize grounding happening with the master data in the system itself, and then based on that particular case, you want to create a dispatch instruction for the field service agent to come in, right? So now it picks up what was the case details. So this case was about this particular appliance. What is the step-by-step process to actually go about doing the repair, and what are the safety precautions to be taken? So like this, you can do bunch of other tools, right? When it comes to, right, for example, you want to write a case overview, or you want to actually go about creating a social media post or creating a blog post. So I can keep going on, but if I go back to the slide, you would thus realize that a lot is happening when it comes to the world of sales and service as an example, right? And again, feel free to reach out to the ASR team for a deeper dive, right? Because I'm going through very quickly. One important thing here is if I switch off my hat of a CRM agent and I put on the hat of a merchandiser in commerce in the world of CX, right? So the three things which a merchandiser and your customers work with the most, one is the field of product attributes, right? So what we've done here, and these are amazing examples of Gen AI working with various algorithms along with your own master data from Commerce Cloud. So what's happened here is we have integrated this with, let's say, Commerce Cloud. So all the catalog data when it comes to attributes and classifications and so on have come into CX AI Toolkit. We also figuring out what are the attributes which is already there in your system in Commerce Cloud, what are the current values, but you can actually look at a particular uh, aspects of that particular product, and you're starting to generate these new attributes. And this is so powerful because now if you see generated value from here, you can then actually select some of them and then start approving it, and this will go into an approval cycle and it will go to Commerce Cloud. Why is this so critical? One, if you're a merchandiser, I don't even need to explain to you why is this so critical, because what's happened here is you have created attributes, especially for hundreds or thousands or even million SKUs, and starting to generate attributes which will improve your search engine optimization or your hyper personalized experience. But what's happening behind the scene, and this is no magic, this is pure maths behind the scene. What we are trying to do is we have prepared and worked with very powerful models available in the market, combined them, figured out which models will work for which use case. In this case, for example, it's picking up the image. So there is an algorithm which is understanding the image. There is an algorithm which is understanding the text data, making sense of it, and then combining them to, and then generating the attributes for you, right? So and by the way, you are doing this for one product. You can also then start doing this for even, let's say, product descriptions. You can start doing this for bulk of products together and do it, or you can do it, for example, for one product at a time. Now, let's look at this next very interesting use case, product description. So let's say we take a jacket, right? Urban Edge. Now, you can start looking at personalizing the content of that description. So there is already some description here, but you might want to, for example, simply do something like translate this to Spanish and use the power of Gen AI to do a translation of that thing. Or you might want to like, let's say there is a Halloween season which is coming up, for these particular attributes, you might want to make it, instead of a professional thing, you might want to make it, let's say, witty, and say, describe this product with a theme of Halloween and magic. And so if you see, step into the realm of urban magic, a bewitching tan jacket that exudes. So again, understand that it's picked up
Yeah.
the master data here, it picked up the descriptions, and it's picking up your further prompt. Now, this could also be your corporate brand theme as a custom prompt. So you add on top of that and so on, right? So this was another example of how we are using very powerful algorithms behind the scene, but the catch here is making it easy for the merchandiser or the business stakeholder. Last but not the least, let's say visual search. So let's say you're a customer and we expose this as an API to your
Search.
commerce site for your customers, right? So let's say you're a customer now logging into commerce. You found out a nice belt, right? And you want to actually just search that on the commerce site. So now there is an image algorithm which is working behind the scene, which will match the product with the catalog data and figured out. And from here, you can then select it and go through your whole shopping experience. But let's say there is a complex product. So in this case, let's say there is a lady with a bag with shoes. Now, when you search this, it will come up with all kinds of results because the picture is complex. But let's say you enable object detection as a customer. So now if you realize there are two algorithms which is working behind the scene. One is the image, one is the object detection. So now you can actually just select the handbags and you can search here. Another thing which is coming up in the roadmap is a third algorithm which will mix with this, which is text algorithm. So let's say you have a camera. The camera has the word Sony written as a brand. You like the camera, you've taken a picture of that and you've uploaded that, and the commerce platform will search by object, by image, and also by the text in that image and give you what is the recommendation. Now imagine B2B world, right? You will have pellets, you will have SKU number with serial numbers, with an image, with a part. Can you work with that? So there is a lot which is happening where we are looking at use case by use case by use case, whether it is for commerce or sales or service, and you saw some of them in the demo. And the advantage of all of that is you start getting the best of both the worlds, right? On one hand, you're getting the best of both the worlds when it comes to data. So data coming in from Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud, Customer Data Platform, in context your business process, or data which is there in your email transcripts or cases and so on, and the power of AI on top of that, whether it is generative AI or automation coming together and working with machine learning. So, this is a fascinating topic where what we're also asking our customers is, if you have any use cases, right, share with us, because that way, high chance either we have built it or it's in the roadmap, or if you've not built it, right, that becomes a great influence topic for us, as because this solution which you saw, so many stuff which I just showed you in a few minutes and I've not covered the entire portfolio, we just launched it a couple of months back. And that is what I meant by a very exciting time. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine a product live in 2 months with so many bells and whistles and functions and functionality uh, for AI, which is such a cutting edge topic, right? So sky is the limit when it comes to innovations in the months and years ahead. Over to you, Sanjeev.
That's fascinating, SG. Thank you. And for the audience, I mean, what you saw is just kind of barely scratching the surface. So to SG's point, um, this is where we're looking for a partnership with our customers. So if you think that you want to embark on this journey with us on generative AI and how SAP CX AI Toolkit can help you in your business. So I'll just let me share my screen here in terms of kind of give you what. So we have this our service called ASAR AI Assessment Service, and this is where we are kind of reaching out to our customers who are willing to embark on this journey together with us. We will engage for like 2 to 3 weeks engagement. And what we'll do is definitely take a look at your sales and service cloud, commerce cloud, and then come up with some of the use case, what we think is going to make the most impact in your processes. And of course, at the same time, hearing some of your use cases, and then we'll come up with really some actionable recommendations. So this is what we think we can do in the immediate future. Okay. And we'll deliver as a part of that assessment report, implementation timeline, what would it take from the resources, and some kind of high-level budgetary estimate. Okay, so this is our assessment service. And if you are interested in any of this service to see how AI Toolkit, CX AI Toolkit can help you, then just reach out to us. I'm just sharing Carly, she our marketing manager, reach out to Carly, or even you can reach out to me through LinkedIn or even Surjit. He has been very kind. He said that he is willing to take on this. If you have some use case which you think that you haven't seen in the demo or you cannot see that SAP CX AI tool can handle, this is where we can come and really brainstorm and see how we can realize those business processes in your case. Okay. So I hope this was helpful to you all, kind of getting a glimpse of SAP CX AI Toolkit. Okay, with that, what I would like to do is I would like to kind of open up for the Q&A. Let me take a look at what questions we have here. So SG, I think the first question I see from here, that a lot of our customers are running SAP Sales and Service Cloud version 1 versus version 2, and they're asking that for them to use CX AI Toolkit, do they have to be on V2 or can they use V1 as well as V2? Can you give some?
They can use V1. So we have released this product to integrate both with Cloud for Customer, so V1, as well as Sales and Service Cloud V2.
Okay, perfect. And same goes for, I believe, the Commerce Cloud, that they have to be on the Commerce Cloud CCV2 to use CX AI Toolkit, or they can use even on-prem if they're using
Commerce Cloud. For Commerce Cloud, it is just purely CCV2. So it has to be Commerce Cloud. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's great. So just to summarize, like if you're running V1 or V2, really doesn't matter. We can definitely, you can take advantage of CX AI Toolkit. Okay, but for the commerce is purely a CCV2. So if you're still running on-prem, I guess it's time for you to move to CCV2. Okay, let's see what's the next question here. So can you talk about something about this? This new license, I believe, CX AI Toolkit is not part of the V2, right? They have to license this CX AI Toolkit.
Correct. And we've kept it very simple, which is when you will license CX AI Toolkit. So one is you're licensing the platform, and one is you're licensing something called AI units, which is a consumption-based model of use cases, right? So when you will initially license CX AI Toolkit, it will come with pre-packaged certain entitlements of AI units. Okay. So what we encourage customers is to start using it, right? Instead of trying to do so much of, there are two ways of, learning something. One, get a PhD and start implementing, or start using it and learn on the job, right? I would recommend that start learning on the job when it comes to a CX AI Toolkit kind of an environment. And very quickly, you will figure out what you can do or what can be done in the roadmap. But there will be obviously a lot of use cases which will need a custom AI use case. And then there is a separate infrastructure for that. But the advantage with our licensing is because it's a consumption based. You buy the CX AI Toolkit, it comes with certain amount of AI units. And the more you will consume, then the more AI units you need to buy in the future.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. And can you talk a little bit about, earlier you had mentioned there's a question about the whole customer data platform. So do you see a CDP as a prerequisite for them to take full advantage of CX AI Toolkit? Just kind of like we talk about that a little bit.
No. So I think the prerequisite for CX AI Toolkit is you need to have either Sales and Service Cloud, V1 or V2, or Commerce Cloud, right? Because you will need to integrate with either of these, either a CRM system or a commerce system. The advantage with CDP is different. The advantage from a CDP standpoint is, one, from a demo you saw the 360 view of that customer which comes in. But I
Hmm.
think overall, uh, CDP will play a bigger role outside the world of Gen AI, right? So CX AI
Hmm.
Toolkit is more Gen AI related AI use cases for efficiency and so on. But
Correct.
I see CDP playing a much strategic role in the months and years to come,
Uh-huh.
where you're able to look at your entire CX front office, bring in your SAP, non-SAP data there, make sense of the data, merge the data, make the data actionable, very importantly, take action from events and triggers out of that data. So definitely not a prerequisite for CXAI toolkit, but I think if you're a chief digital officer or the CIO or the head of marketing or head of sales in your organization, do start immediately also looking at how do you design your customer data as a strategy and platform, and and because these two roads will converge eventually, which is the power of AI and the power of data coming together.
Got it. Right. So let me just kind of give some additional thoughts with this, SG. So let's say you have this customer data platform, which is definitely a source for your customer data, and that the feeding into the CDP could be data coming in from S/4HANA. Of course, you have a data feeding in from Sales Cloud, Commerce Cloud, Service Cloud, right? And then when it comes to the AI toolkit, more like how you're training your data models. So is it fair to say that the CDP helps you train your data models much more better to get the most out of your AI toolkit? I'm just trying to
Yeah, yeah.
see the
Good discussion, right? So I would say training the data model will depend
uh-huh,
on the use case.
correct,
So for example, you would need data training model more for deep learning use cases and machine learning use cases. But in
right.
case of CXAI toolkit, we are not really training the model. We are using open
Only
source models
pre-trained,
like
pre-trained
OpenAI or
model.
something like that, or
Got
image
it.
model, and we are combining that with the data. So it's not
Got it.
training the model, but combining that with your data and sales cloud or service cloud or commerce cloud and using that for the efficiency use cases. You would need something like training the model when, let's say, you are wanting to build a custom machine learning algorithm
Hmm.
yourself,
Hmm.
right? For which, again, I would say we've launched in SAP, for example, SAP BTP AI Foundation,
Hmm.
where it has AI Core and Data Sphere and
Okay,
HANA Cloud with the
got it.
vector engine. And you can start training the models in that infrastructure of BTP AI Foundation for this custom AI models.
Okay,
The role I see CDP playing is to activate that intelligence across the entire CX. So let's say somebody's inventory is low in S4, but that customer has a high customer lifetime value for an ongoing opportunity. CDP will make sense of these three different events and then start
got it.
using that to actually make action.
Okay, okay. So you're talking, so let's say if I have to build my own agents, to your earlier point about like building your agents as a part of a generative AI, is that something possible in CX AI Toolkit, or for that I need to take the BTP, that AI foundation, what you mentioned?
So CXAI Toolkit is a SaaS prepackaged application. So
Yes.
which means if AI agents will have to be built, and which that's one of the roadmap items, we will
Yeah.
build that, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
we will build that as a prepackaged use case and send it. Now, if
Okay.
you want to build your own custom AI agents, that would be the BTP AI Foundation tech stack.
I see. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, like I'm really so fascinated with the opportunities we have available for each one of us to automate our processes. One, of course, with the given whatever SAP has delivered as a part of Joule or part of CX AI Toolkit, but then everybody is just, like I said, like limited by their own imagination. You come up with use case, and then SAP gives you the platform, the tools, and then technology to do whatever you need to do for that.
Yep. And honestly speaking, would like to conclude by saying that, and if you go through those white papers, you will realize that so much can be done.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the reverse now. It's like so much can be done. The technology is there. I
Yeah.
think it's the problem of, thankfully, the problem of human bandwidth. So there is still need for humans in today's world,
Yep.
where somebody will have to figure out, somebody will have to work in teams and roll this out, right? But you would technology is not a limitation anymore. I think it is more of us trying to figure out what can
our
be done
limitation. Yeah.
in priority with the business.
True, true. And I couldn't underline more what you said earlier about the constant learning. Like I'm a firm believer in like constantly. I just recently completed the course from MIT on generative AI. So like constantly, whatever I can lay my hands on, I love to read because these things are changing so fast. You have to keep yourself up to date when you're really trying to do something meaningful for you personally, as well as for your organization.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rudy. Really appreciate your time. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for showing us the AI toolkit. I hope this was useful for the audience here. Please feel free to reach out to us, follow up us on LinkedIn, let us know anything we can do. And if you'd like to work together to do some exciting stuff in this CX AI toolkit, we'll be more than happy to partner with you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, everyone.